Hello and thank you for joining. My name is Anthony Mancuso from Sonoma Partners. Today we're bringing you this video to act as an extension to a shorter previous video that we released. We spent about 5 minutes talking about some general topics of how an AEC firm might be utilizing Dynamics 365. As I mentioned, this video is going to act as an extension of that, in which we spend quite a bit more time going into the specifics, again, of how an AEC firm might be utilizing Dynamics, as well as accessing this content from a variety of different platforms. That said, it makes sense that we start our conversation today on Outlook. It tends to be the first thing that maybe your sellers or your project teams access first thing in the morning. So as you can see, I'm on my iPad and I'm within the native Outlook application. And in here I've got this email from Alicia Brissett, and she's reached out to Sally, my user persona. Alicia says, would you be available to meet this week? I want to start talking next steps about a new clinic that we're working on. Now in the past, where does this email live? It might live in Sally's head. She might write that on a post-it note next to her desk. In other words, that interaction is not being tracked whether it's relevant for other folks in the organization to see or not. But now with Dynamics so seamlessly embedded within this Office 365 stack, we have this option to hit the ellipses that sit in the top right-hand corner of this email. And if I hit that now, this is where we traditionally go in to reply to the email, forward it out to somebody else. But now you see we have this option in the top left-hand corner for Dynamics 365. And what's going to happen is, again, now that everything is so seamlessly embedded together within Dynamics, the Outlook app is going to look for that email within our Dynamics 365 environment and try to find a way that we can associate that email back to a contact or an account or an opportunity in CRM. So you can see now I've already got this email tracked by popping open that Dynamics app, and it's tracking it back to Kaiser Permanente, the account that Alicia works for. In there we have some information regarding the Kaiser Permanente account, and even some personal information about Alicia down below as well. So we know that she's the procurement director at Kaiser Permanente. We have a couple phone numbers for her. And down below, even having things like attachments, tracking notes. This one here, she looks like she adopted a new puppy, and we've attached that picture to her contact record. So now that that email is tracked, you're going to notice as we move forward that that is going to show up in Dynamics, so other people within the organization have the opportunity to see that conversation, to know what's been talked about, what expectations have been set. Now what I'm going to do is switch over to the Dynamics 365 native mobile application that you would download from your App Store. Now, first thing that Sally sees when she opens up this application is what we like to call a Today view. And in that Today view, we see a couple things. On the left-hand side, what we have called the Relationship Assistant. And that Relationship Assistant is basically a tool that's generating these little cards, as you can see here, that include actionable insights based on what Dynamics is finding through things like email or changes that have happened on records or some previous history that's being picked up through analytics. A couple things as you can see here. It looks like the first card that was generated says that an issue was detected in an email. Again, having this all tied back in with our users' Outlook and emails that have come in from our contacts. You can see that we have an email from Alicia, and based on some verbiage or some keywords in that email, this card was generated to let us know that there could have been a potential issue in that email. Even further, things like an email from Alicia requesting a brand new file. Okay. On the right-hand side of that, we see our favorite records. So maybe these are the contacts or the accounts or opportunities that we're most often interacting with. Down below that, recently viewed records that we have quick access to get to. And then the action buttons on the bottom to create new activities like tasks or phone calls, to create new records, whether that be a new contact or an opportunity or an account or so on, and then the ability to create a new note as well right next to that. So now, let's say that we got that email from Alicia, we've tracked that back to Dynamics, we're going to go and meet her about this new opportunity that we're working on. So I have a couple minutes to learn about the account, and I'm going to click on Kaiser Permanente from here. Once that opens, you'll notice that this is surfacing quite a bit of information. This kind of scorecard that we see at the top, which also, if you remember, popped up when we associated that email from Alicia back to the Kaiser Permanente account. You see all of our related records here, so related activities, whether they're open or closed, cases that we have with them, opportunities that we're working on. Moving forward, we're managing a client profile, and this is very AEC specific, so doing things like expense reporting, learning the client type, their profitability percentage. As we scroll forward, some other things you see. open activities that we currently have out with that account, notes that include attachments, again, as you remember what we saw before in that email, where we looked at a contact record and a photo was attached to Alicia's record. And again, some more related things we see here. Who are our key contacts? There's Alicia, as we saw, some upcoming opportunities that we're working on, even showing things like a hierarchy of all the different subsidiaries and affiliates of Kaiser Permanente so we could manage those accounts as well. We're doing things in here like managing an overall strategic plan, tracking our competitors, and talking about some objectives and strategies that we might have with Kaiser moving forward to grow that book of business with them. So all that is accessible right through here. Now, if we go over to this area for opportunities, again, she wants to meet about a specific clinic that we're working on, we could open up that opportunity right from here, this Kaiser Permanente Oakland Clinic. If I do that, this form looks very similar. We have our related records on the left-hand side, so things like activities. It even includes documents, which would tie back to things like a SharePoint or OneDrive natively. You can see I open that up. I've got quite a bit of files here that are being stored in SharePoint and accessible for me on the go. In here too, again, tracking things like a summary of that information, again, very specific to AEC. So probability, contract type, the coordinating office, overviews of that project, and even managing, as you can see at the top in the green chevrons, what we're calling a business process flow. This is Sally's recipe for success to make sure that she's on the right track to close this opportunity. So all this is accessible in a quick and easy fashion on a mobile device, whether that be on a tablet or smartphone, and renders seamlessly across all those devices. So now Sally, without ever having to sit down at her desk, has all the information that she needs about Alicia, Kaiser Permanente, and the opportunity that we're working on with them to be prepared for the upcoming meeting. So now Sally finds herself back at her desk following the meeting that she just had with Alicia. And from here, she has access to all the same content as she would as we previously saw when we were accessing Dynamics through our mobile device. Just a quick navigation about what we're looking at here. In this top toolbar is where we navigate to all the different areas of what Dynamics has to offer. You see right now we're in our sales module, looking at a list of companies. If I were to hit the drop-down arrow next to the sales module here, you see that this gets us out to the different areas of that app, things like sales dashboards, lists of contacts, companies, opportunities, leads, and so on. As I mentioned before, we're looking at a list of our companies right now, and the reason I wanted to show this is because we hear very frequently in the AEC space that a lot of people in that line of work are very familiar with tracking the opportunities they're working on, the companies that they're working with in Excel. So it makes sense that Dynamics provides a very Excel-like experience when trying to drill down on records and filter on different pieces of information that we're collecting about, let's say, like a list of our companies. What I mean by that is, as I mentioned, we're in a list of all of our active accounts that we currently have right now, and I've configured the columns to show things like the account name, the client type, the service line, things like the annual revenue we get from them, profitability, and the region that they're from here. All of this is configurable as well. We just noticed that these were a couple of the different areas where it was very important for people in the AEC space to be able to filter on that. So that said, now you notice we have this list of 60 accounts. And if I hit this filter button in the top right-hand side, I can actually start drilling down on these columns, on these individual records. So if we want to start in, let's say, this service column here, and I only want to look at our interior service line, I can check that box, hit OK, and you'll notice that that list of 60 accounts just went down to 5 accounts. Even further, you can stack this. So if I also wanted to see now only our interiors service line accounts in the West region, I'll go to this column, we'll hit West. That list of 5 accounts now drops down to 4 accounts. So it's very easy to now filter, as you can see down on the individual records that you have. And let's say that for Sally in particular, this is a view that she very often accesses. She always wants to see what interiors accounts that we have in the West region. She's already set up these filters. She can hit the drop-down arrow by the name of the list view here to come down and hit this button for Save These Filters as a brand new view. When I hit that now, we can save it here. We'll rename it to say something like Interiors West Region, and we'll save that. So now when Sally comes in and she accesses this drop-down list of company records, she sees that she has a personal view for herself, interiors in the West region. It's worth noting too that this list is dynamic. So let's say a new account comes in that fits those same filter criteria that we set up on that list view before, they would drop into this list, which is also nice if you think about it from a marketing perspective as well, to make sure that they can come up with these list views that fit certain parameters so we can very specifically target out individual contacts or accounts based on a criteria of information. Okay. So as you remember, when we were on our mobile device, we were working with Kaiser Permanente. And I'm going to click on that account record from here, from this list view. What I could also do is hit this magnifying glass up in the top right-hand corner to search for it, or hit this recently viewed items, in which it would see some things like recently viewed records that we've accessed, or those pinned or favorite records, again, very similar to what we saw on the mobile device. So let's go ahead and open up Kaiser Permanente here. And the reason I want to do this is you're going to start seeing a little bit more things, a little bit more pieces of information about that account, including some plugins to external sources that help us grow that book of business with them. So on the left-hand side, we have things like our meat and bones on the account. Again, the expense reporting, the address. On the right-hand side, similar to mobile, our key contacts, our upcoming opportunities that we have. But then above that, you see that we have an app that we've downloaded from the app source here called Insights, which is looking at thousands and thousands of different sources of information, public information, to bring relevant insights about Kaiser Permanente right on this account record level. So in here you could see some research and development going on. We could even find contacts at that organization using this tool that, again, is just pulling from thousands of those public sources. In the middle, we have our social feed. And in that social feed, it's worth pointing out that email that we had tracked from Outlook is actually located right here. So this is what that would look like, how it would render on this social feed for other people internally to see what that conversation looked like. As we scroll down a little bit further, we even have in here the area for a LinkedIn company profile. So talking about the LinkedIn Sales Navigator tool to bring in things like connections that we might have at Kaiser Permanente on a personal level, or even looking at on our team in particular. Let's say I have a colleague who has a connection with somebody at Kaiser Permanente. I'm going to see those various levels of degreed connections in which I can make inroads to try to bridge that gap and make a connection with somebody that I otherwise haven't been connected with before. As we scroll down, again, very similar to what we saw on mobile, our subsidiaries and affiliates, our overall strategic plan with the account, current year plan, and even managing relationships with our staff. So seeing things like our key contacts, the office affiliation that they have, and a SWOT analysis that we're managing about this relationship. If I scroll up here now, in a similar fashion, what we're going to do is look at the Kaiser Permanente Oakland Clinic opportunity. Once we're on this opportunity, you notice that we're tracking a lot of the similar information. Again, things very specific to the AEC space. If I look at our meat and bones of this opportunity record on the left-hand side, we now see things that are much different than what you get out of box with Dynamic. We're tracking things like the project manager, the stage that we're in, the source campaign, the client type, and even more specific details, as you can see here. Who's our coordinating office for this opportunity? What kind of contract type is this? And what is the timeline that we currently have for this project? In the middle, we have our social feed, again, very similar to what we saw on the account form previously, and tracking things on the right-hand side like our account and sales team and the competitors that we currently have. In that business process flow at the top, we also saw this on mobile. This is our recipe for success to make sure that we're on the path to being able to win this opportunity in the most efficient and timely way. Now, as Sally is going through this business process flow, she ends up getting to a point where maybe she needs to sit down with her manager to talk a little bit about a go, no-go process. And we've built out that form here on this opportunity where right above the opportunity name, if I click this drop-down arrow, you see we have a form for the go, no-go process. If I click that now, in here this form looks very similar but is housing a lot of different information. On the left-hand side, you can see the go, no-go client score, project score, and business score, which is in turn generating a total score for the go, no-go, which is going to determine whether or not we should move forward with this opportunity. If I scroll down, I have individual tabs that include questions. Again, Sally sitting down with her manager. Her manager might go through and say, have we dealt with this client before? Sally says yes. That's going to score this question as a 1. If I go down a little bit further, we're even asking questions about the project. You can see here, will the permits and approvals be obtainable within the client's planned time frame? Sally doesn't believe that it will, so that question is scored as a 0. Down below, just one more tab, capturing things like business considerations. Worth noting here that all of this is configurable as well. Just some questions that we see are most commonly asked in this go, no process in the AEC space. As I mentioned before, all of these together, as we're continuing to answer these questions and scoring out these questions, is going to come up with a total score at the top. And we can determine things like a threshold for the score. Maybe we say if this opportunity through this go, no-go process doesn't have at least a score of 30, we don't want to move forward with this. This one in particular is scored as a 32, so Sally can move forward in the process of working on closing this opportunity and converting that into a project. So now that this opportunity is approved as a go, a couple things that Sally might want to do. First is maybe look at some previous projects that we've worked on internally to maybe come up with a project one-sheeter, or just reference some previous projects that we've worked on that could help build our credibility for this Oakland clinic that we're working on with Kaiser today. The way that we're going to access that is in our top navigation through this drop-down arrow next to the opportunity. You see that we have an area for projects. And the way that we have this set up is kind of like an Amazon shopping experience where you purchase an item and it says, hey, based on you buying this item, we think that you might also be interested in item 1, item 2, and item 3. So that can be based on some analytics. It could be based on what other customers have purchased. Long story short, in a similar fashion for this project that we're working on, this is noticing some criteria that we're collecting about the opportunity. It knows that this is a clinic that we're working on. Dynamics knows that this is with Kaiser Permanente, so we can look specifically at existing projects with them. So this list view is being generated of previous projects or associated projects that might be relevant to drop into that project one-sheeter. You can see here that we have a previous project for a Kaiser Permanente Hilltop Clinic. Sounds pretty relevant. We could open that up now. And this is really neat because what this is doing is collecting all the project milestones, the estimates versus actuals about this project that either we're currently working on or have previously completed in the past. So we know the project type, the contract type, who our project leads were in particular. Maybe if we're trying to determine who we'd like our project manager to be or architect or designer, we can find that from a previous project. If I scroll down here, we see our dates and fees. Again, this is where we're tracking things like our estimates versus actuals and our project milestones. We see who our primary and billable clients were. Looks like all of this went out to Kaiser Permanente. And then even breaking this project up even into market sectors so that we know, again, maybe the marketing team wants to look at all of our accounts that we've worked with that fit the market sector of healthcare. They can use this criteria to do so. So now let's assume that Sally is in a position where she's moved forward with this opportunity. We've generated that project one-sheeter, and at some point we need to start delegating out responsibilities for something like a project manager. Now, one use case that we see very popular in the AEC space is the ability to take different information, maybe that we're pulling from things like our HR system, about one of our employees that we can then share out to our account, like Kaiser Permanente, about previous projects that they've worked on, education that they have, so that they get a better idea of the person who's going to be staffed on that project for something like this clinic that we're working on now. The way that we can do that is I'm actually going to go up to our search bar in the top navigation here, and we're going to look for Sally Sales. Let's make her wear a different hat here and assume that she's going to be the project manager on this project we're working on with Kaiser. So here's her user record, and you'll notice in here we're collecting quite a bit of information, just basic meat and bones like the name, the region, the office, her contact information. Also doing things like capturing a personal bio. As we mentioned, certifications and trainings, the affiliations and memberships, even project experience within our firm and outside of our firm. so that we know when we're recommending her to different projects to be the project manager on, why her experience is relevant to be staffed on that project. And as we talked about before, even capturing things like education. This could be pulled in again from an HR system. You could also make this so maybe your users maybe annually have to come in here and update the information so that you have all the newest and up-to-date experience and education and certifications that they might have. Now from here, typically in the past, you have this housed somewhere, but it's difficult to extract that, to be able to share that out. We introduced the concept at this point of a Word template. And a Word template is built into Dynamics 365, and what it does is generates a Word document that takes the field values from this form we're looking at here, and this one in particular, the employee form, and puts that into a nice format, again, in a Word document. What I mean by that is if we hit the ellipses that sit in this gray toolbar here, we have that option for Word templates. And in here, you notice that we have one for the employee resume. Let's say employee resume 2017. Now, I've gone ahead and already downloaded that for you, but as you'll notice, if I open up this Word document here, what that Word template would do, again, drop this into a Word document. It's already all formatted, and all of this information that you're seeing here matches the information that's located on that employee record we saw back in Dynamics. So now we have in here Sally with her position, the personal bio, certifications and trainings, even her contact information below. And then as we talked about, the education, project experience, and the affiliations. So now we can take this, we could save this maybe as a PDF, send that out to Kaiser or Alicia, our contact over there, so that they have a good idea again of who they're going to be working with and who's going to be staffed in this project to head up this new clinic design that we're working on with them. At this point now we're back in Dynamics, and to wrap everything up we're going to talk a little bit about some reporting and analytics and how that is surfacing on things like a dashboard within Dynamics. Back in our navigation at the web browser here, so we're in our sales app now, we're in our sales module and we see that we have dashboards right here. And if I click dashboards, worth noting that these could either be created for you or by you and shared out to different folks in the organization. We have one built out here on the sales side. In the AEC space, some things that we see are pretty popular to be tracking. Typical things like our sales pipeline, our win rate by client, open revenue by the client type, goal progress, and even things like neglected clients. So looking at a list of all the accounts or contacts that we have, maybe that have had little to no interaction in the last 90 days. So as maybe a seller like Sally, I can jump on now, look right at my dashboard and have this list view be dynamically populated so I know that maybe in a day's work I need to reach out to these 10 to 12 accounts and start seeing if I can grow that business a little bit more with them. Also worth noting too that these charts that you're seeing are not just pretty pictures. You do have the ability to drill down on this information as far as the data will let you go. What I mean by that is, let's say that we want to look at maybe this area of our sales pipeline we have here. It looks like most of our revenue is sitting in this soft stage area. Maybe I want to click that, and I want to drill down to see of that revenue that we're expecting in this sales stage here, who is our potential customer that we are working with. So here's that option for potential customer. I hit that right arrow here. And now that's broken up and drilled down into just that soft sales stage there. Where is this revenue that we're expecting, planning to be coming from? So you see that we have some that are really high, some that are very low. Again, you can drill down into that information as far as that data will let you go. And you could build out these dashboards and have share these out to different folks in the organization, all with respect to security as well. So if other folks don't have access to certain records, those won't show up on their dashboard if they show up on somebody else's who does have access to those records. That said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you do have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us, or you can contact us at www.sonomapartners.com. Thanks.